How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Nice and wet, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody. I hope not. You had to bring that up, didn't you? Yeah. Still alive, still kicking. That's the main thing. Nice poncho, dude. It's a great poncho. You okay?
Yeah, no, I'm not okay. I'm freezing.
I'm from the.
He's sensitive to the temperature.
Jeez,
He's
man.
not
We got to help you out.
Is this football, Will?
This is. This is good weather. When we were, I was telling somebody earlier, when we were in Spartanburg all those years, guys were praying for days like this. So.
With all the newness that's happened, there's still some carryover. How do you view this camp with a new coach, with some pieces in place, and yet with some familiar faces in Jones?
Yeah, John, I think there's always an excitement around camp, right? It's a fresh start, it's a new start. You had the off season to kind of do most of your roster building. Doesn't mean we can't do anything at this point, but you've built your roster up, and now you're getting into pads, and you got your rookie class that you've only seen in t-shirts and shorts. And then this year, you're right, we got a new element of a new head coach. Some coaches returned, but a lot of new faces, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We've switched to a 3-4, and so there's a new system being installed, and there'll be ups and downs. It won't be perfect along the way, but that's exciting. That to kind of watch this group come together as a whole, and then what does this new defense look like? How does Joe balance the head coach, play caller, all that stuff? I mean, I think he's got a great plan. He's worked really hard this offseason. I'm excited to see how he's leading our team.
What are your expectations outside and externally are still the same, that this team is very good? What are your expectations about this team?
Yeah, I mean, my expectations are it's an oxymoron, but it truly is one day at a time. Like we just finished one practice. And I mentioned some of the things that I'm excited about, but we've got to do it. There's no quick, build a team, build the camaraderie, the glue. In the season you're going to have ups and downs, right? It's a long season, and so that's why we like coming here, getting away. I know a lot of teams don't, but Joe and I talked about that pretty quick after he was, named the head coach of what will be our plan, and I love coming up here, and was glad that he thought it the same. I just think it's hard to build a bond, and so this is exciting for us. And yeah, we're not up here as long, but there's a good plan of not going back and forth, just everybody kind of staying here, and as if we're, I know the Giants are going to Greenbrier or something, like it's kind of treating it like that, even though we're a lot closer to home.
How have you seen him take ownership of the team and establish standards, hold guys accountable? What have you seen over these last several months here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting. We all, before I was a GM, you think, all right, this is how I'm going to do things. But when you're the assistant GM or the director of football ops or wherever I was along my way, you have to follow, what the people above you are doing. So it's been fun to see Joe, while there's similarities of what you saw as a quarterback coach and a coordinator, there's also now, like, I'm in charge of this whole ship and this, not just the offense, now the whole team and the defense. And Joe has a great way about him. I think you guys have been around him. He's got a natural presence. He can be firm. He's a good guy, but he will be firm. I saw him jumping some dudes today. I think he's got a good balance. And again, there will be ups and downs in camp. There will be ups and downs as we build this team, and obviously, a 17-game season, there will be ups and downs. So he'll have tests along the way, but I thought he did, for a first-year head coach, I thought he had a great plan. I mean, you go back to the interview process, and you're listening to these coaching candidates of how they want to take this team to the next level, which is what we're trying to do. Talking about it and then doing it is not always easy. And I thought Joe was very real in his interview and very authentic, and had a plan, and it hasn't just been hollow words. He's been methodically doing that step by step in his own unique way. He's not coming in saying things didn't work, I'm going to blow it up and do. I want to just do it with a lot of the things that have done well, and then I want to put my tweak on it and make it the way I think is how we can go win a championship.
There's been so much talk about Keon going back to things that's happened the last couple of years, the press conferences. How do you think that he's handled it? What's been your messaging to him, and what kind of a year does this need to be for him?
I think if you know how, depending on everyone's relationship with Keon, if you know Keon through 2 years, right, and this is year 3, if you know him the way I know him and the way I think a lot of the guys and his teammates know him, you feel a guy who's really matured. Like the light is come on. He understands some of the things that he could have done better along the way. I think back to when I was 21, 22, there's things that, I probably should have done that a little bit better. And so I like to remind everyone, was his first 2 years perfect? No. But if you just talk to him and around him, you feel a guy growing into his own, comfortable in his skin, and just like, I know that I can't do the same things that I did the first 2 years and expect to have success on the field or in the locker room with my teammates. And his teammates see it. He dropped the first ball today, and I saw like 3 guys come over there and dap him up. Like Josh comes right back to him the next play, a much harder play, and he makes it. And which was funny. What Joe Brady said to me after warm-ups was like, this will be interesting. So this is a good test. Like, put the ball down. As he says, we don't get to predict, we don't get to choose the weather. It's our job to go out here. He goes, I'm going to be curious, someone slips and falls, someone drops a ball, someone fumbles a ball, how they do the next play. And I literally thought of that when that happened to Keon. He dropped the ball. So I'm watching him in the huddle. I'm watching him the next play. And Josh went right back to him. So I'm very proud of where Keon is. He could have taken the negativity from the press conference thing, the season, the benchings, whatever has happened to him. He has had the most positive outlook on things, and I think not only myself, I think everybody in this organization is excited. He's still got to go out there and do it, and nothing's given, but I think he's done everything that he could control up to this point.
Brandon, as you look at this defense, it's young. What do you want to see out of their growth over the next month?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the things, Maddie, is we've got some guys in slightly new positions, whether it's guys that have always had their hand down, now they're standing up a little bit. Some guys that were maybe playing more outside, sliding into, a different spot or vice versa. So I think just the first thing is the front and how these guys fit. Then you go to, the second level with the backers, from that standpoint. And then, the safeties, obviously, Cole's going into his 3rd year, really showed some things this last year. We think we've got some really good depth in the safety room. So how does that all play out, alongside him? And then some young DBs, a D Alford in here. So we've got some new faces that John mentioned earlier. We've got some guys that have been here, and a Greg Rousseau. Bradley Chubb's been talked about. I mean, his leadership. He takes T.J. Parker, down to Florida with him this summer, and I talked to Bradley yesterday about it, and just he's impressed with TJ's commitment. And, for a young guy, feels like the light's on. And so, I commend TJ for going, man, that's a guy I kind of want to follow. So I'm excited about a lot of things. I'm excited about pads, just as, we're not there yet with the ramp up, which I think's good. The old days of just throwing pads on right away. We'll ramp them up the next few days and then get into pads next week. But I'm excited about all that. I'm excited to watch Jim, use the different packages and putting guys in different spots. We talk about positionless players. And as I said, we've got some safeties that have some good experience in this league. And what are some different ways he can use them as we build this roster and decide, who the best 53 players are.
Brady, can I go back to Keon for a second? Well, I understand you're saying it's like year 3, and things he would have maybe done differently and all. But you know the way this league goes, right? Expectations become, things don't wait for anybody. Do you need more out of him this year, or do you have higher expectations for him this year because you've seen his progress now coming into the third year of a rookie deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just if you handle the things the way he's handled them this offseason up to this point, and I'm not really concerned that he won't. Obviously, it's still got to play out, but I think those things will come if you just prepare, do the right things on the field, off the field. I think the rest will come. I don't think he's come up short with his ability. I think he's shown plenty of things going back to his rookie year before the injury. We talked about he didn't come back as well after the injury, but if you watch those games, watch him progressing. He was doing it. The rest of that year didn't go as well. Last season, game one, Josh went to him in some big moments, made some big plays in that comeback at the Ravens. Then things kind of fell off. So I think when he's done things the right way, which he's doing that, and the light is on, I think that will naturally come. I don't know what my expectations are. I'm not concerned that he's not going to do things, the immature things that popped up from time to time the first 2 years. So I think by being as mature as he's shown this offseason, that those things will take care of itself.
Given the severity of Michael Hope's injury, is he ahead of schedule? And can he be ready for the start of this season?
Mike's one of those guys you got to hold him back. He would practice every rep today if he could, but these guys are still trying to tell him. So we're still trying to be smart with him, but he feels very confident. I'm not going to say you'd have to ask him this. Does he feel exactly the way he felt prior to the injury last season? But I know he's been confident. He's been here the whole time. He was here this summer. I'm excited about watching him continue to get better. When you take that much time off of football, like that itself, injured or not, it takes time to kind of get back on the bike and get going. So I think he'll be getting his legs, getting his feel and all that. I think we'll all continue to see him get better, get into games. We'll try to hopefully keep him healthy and get some preseason action just to get the rust off there, decide what he needs to be prepared, and hopefully he's good to go for week one. That's what we believe it'll be, but time will tell.
Do you expect Dalton Kincaid, assuming he can stay healthy, that this is going to be the breakout year? Now, I know he had a really good rookie year, but the last two have been injury marred. Do you expect, if he's healthy, he's going to be a star tight end for you guys?
I mean, we believe Dalton. I mean, I think you just said when healthy, he's done really good things all the way back to his rookie year, Sal. So he's worked really hard. I think if when he came back the other day, I was like, dude, you're looking chiseled. Like, I made him take his shirt off, and then he asked me to take mine off, and I said no. But in all seriousness, he went out to California after the season, and I'm sure he took a little time, but he trained. He trained really hard, and he's grown into his body more, and he knows what it takes. The things that have happened to him haven't been from a lack of preparation or a lack of effort. He's done everything he could. Sometimes it's this is a car crash type of a game. It's physical, and so hopefully we can keep him healthy. If we keep him healthy, I think we'll see the guy that has shown a lot over his first few years.
Brandon, I don't think we saw Troy Bernard take any team reps today. Anything to read into that?
He was just some things. As in his training, just he's fine. We're just trying to ramp him up properly and make sure he's good to go. So he will. You guys will see him over the the next week or so, gradually go all the way back into to doing that. And Dorian will be on a similar thing as well.
Because of Dorian's recovery and Terrell's, that opens the door for Caleb.
Yep.
Right. What have you seen from him, and how big of an opportunity is this to take hold of?
Yeah, I think Caleb had a good spring. It's T-shirts and shorts, so I have to look in the mirror and say don't. But I thought Caleb did a really nice job. Got some opportunities to, be the play caller in the huddle, so to speak, and runs out there today with the first group. And it's a we got to get him in pads and see what that looks like. In T-shirts and shorts, I think he's doing a nice job, for a young guy. Don't want to jump to conclusions, but we'll see. But he's going to get opportunities. I think there's several guys that, that's what we always say. Next man up, be ready. Take advantage of your reps. Don't count them. Just take advantage of everyone you got. And to this point, I think he's done that.
If you think about Ed Oliver's top 5 games of his career, I think you'd call him a game wrecker if you were looking at the film. Can he do that over the course of an entire season? And does this defense need him to do that over the course of the whole season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things. Ed was one of the first names that Jim Leonard brought up. And I think I can. I know what this guy does well. I've watched the film. I've studied him. Not that he didn't know him, but I know him even better. And I think I can get him more opportunities in some one-on-one matchups. Ed, as a one-on-one guy, is tough. I think if you watch the film, he faces a decent amount of doubles, and which is smart by teams to do that. And that's where you love that Jim already has that in mind early on. I'm talking about back in January, February, as this coaching staff was being assembled, and that hasn't changed. And so, yes, I think Ed can be, I mean, the year. How many sacks did he have the year after we did his deal? It was close to 10. So I think you've seen plenty of Ed that he can do it, and obviously he's still learning this defense. But I'm excited for him, and I'm excited for Jim and how he's planning to use him.
Brady, how do you feel about the depth at corner outside of the top guys, Benford, Hairston, Magic?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about back to draft day, John. That's given me the most angst, which was why I was, aggressive for IGB to add him to the mix. And it's a position that, whether it's the luck of the draw or whatever, we've come up short in the playoffs of having all the healthy bodies we need, and so I've tried to make sure, again, I went through who we had in camp last year we felt really good about, but the injury bug hit us, starting here with what happened to Max, and it kept going. So it's something we'll monitor. I like the guys that we have, and they're in there competing. If you can tell me they'll stay healthy, that would be great. And I think Will Greenberg and his staff did a real good, a really nice job this offseason of being intentional with a lot of different things, and including that area as well. So I like the depth, but it can get thin there fast. It's a hard position to play in the league. That's why you see corners get paid a lot of money. And so we'll monitor it, and there'll be some good battles as to who's going to, be some of those back end guys to help make this roster.
If you have an injury there, is Trey White the first call you have to make?
We love Trey, and we constantly keep contact with guys like Trey. You've seen us bring back, again, the Poyers, the Micahs, the Jordan Phillips. I'm missing guys, but we love guys that have been here and have been stalwarts for this team, and so I'm sure Trey's had probably teams reach out, and we've stayed in contact with him through the off season and check on him, and I'm sure he's probably working out somewhere right now, as we all know Trey. So yeah, you keep that's our job, is to keep a running list of players at each position, and you're naturally going to lean to someone who has done it recently for you and had success.
Brady, I know this is.
Position battle you're most excited to watch this camp, whether it's starter, lower on the depth chart. Is there just something you're really interested in?
I think I'm most interested in what I was telling Maddie earlier, just in this defense. It's I feel like I know the offense better. Now, the left guard battle on offense, that's a premium spot that we need to make sure we're good there. Our number one thing is to protect number 17. But beyond that, I'm excited about this defense and how Ed Oliver fits. Sorry, I hit somebody's thing. How Ed fits, how the rest of these D linemen, the Deion Walkers, the TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson. Obviously Chubb's new here. Rousseau, more stand-up things. I'm excited to see how all these pieces are being used, how they fit. What is their best fit? You know, we like versatility. We want these guys to be able to play multiple spots. Is Deion Walker's best spot at nose? Is it 4-eye? You know what I mean? And I think several guys, Landon Jackson falls in. There's several guys that fall into that. So I'm excited to see those guys, and I don't think that's going to be determined in one or two practices. That's going to carry through the preseason, and will be part of, you know, what we're trying to figure out. What's the best group, you know, to assemble as part of this 53.
I'm sure Jim is not showing everything in the defense early on. So what is that balance for you as an evaluator of knowing, you know, he's going to keep his cards close to the chest until he gets closer to the actual season, trying to determine how guys look?
Yeah, I think, you know, you do your best. You know, Joe will have some physical practices as we go, and you ones versus one, and so you're trying to emulate the best you can. You know, we have a scrimmage against Cleveland lined up, so we'll try and do some things there, you know, in that practice, and then you kind of get to that third preseason game, and that's one of the big things you talk about is who are the guys we still need to see, in are they in certain positions we need to see them, and that's kind of the conversation. So if we feel like, hey, we don't have it all answered going into that third game, you may see some guys still playing that you're like, man, I'm surprised that guy's playing in the third game. That means we're still trying to figure out what their best role and best fit is for this team and this defense.
You mentioned the competition at left guard. Corbett, he played 3 different spots for Carolina last year. What did you and your staff see from him that gave you confidence that if he were to be the one who won this job in camp, that there would be a seamless transition?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you do research on these guys, Lance, and you try and find out, and all the way back to his college days, like he's a pro's pro, good teammate, good leader, smart. To be able to play that many spots, you know, the intelligence is there. It's not easy. And then he's got the physical tools to do that as well. You're always looking for guys that can play center, that you only get to, you know, suit up 8 guys, so as many guys that can snap the ball is helpful, or play multiple spots, especially if you're not a starter. So all that was very attractive. Starting, you know, if he wins the job, it's not going to be big for him. He's had a lot of starts in this league, and, you know, right now he's battling a young guy in Alec who's been that extra O-lineman for us and has spot started, even went out to tackle for us in the Pittsburgh game. So it's kind of fun. You got a young guy versus a veteran who's done it, and, you know, I think Austin's going to come in here like everyone with a mindset, I'm going to win the starting job. But if he doesn't, he's going to be a good teammate, and he'll be ready when his number's called.
Brandon, with Cedric Van Ranger, the draft pick, played center on the national championship team of Georgia Bulldogs. I was just wondering, was he under consideration for the opportunity to start at center, because he's still on his rookie contract?
Yeah, I mean, you know, unfortunately with Ced last year, he had the calf injury, which was a big setback for him. He did it the week leading up to training camp a year ago, and he missed the whole preseason to the point we were still having to ramp him up as the season got started. And then, you know, fortunately for us, Connor stayed healthy through the year, so he didn't have the opportunities to play. He played in the last game, thought he did a nice job, but you would have loved to, you know, for him to not have had that setback. Nothing he could do. He was doing it training for football. It happens. But, you know, he did a great job for Georgia. He's smart. He's a leader and all those things. And so this is a big year for him, year 3, to come in here and show in camp, show in these preseason games what he can do. And I think there's some good competition there, you know, between him and we brought in Lloyd Cushenberry. And obviously we want Connor to stay healthy, but things happen. So Ced will have a great opportunity this preseason.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a very interesting guy, and he's been polarizing. He's been in different places, success, teams have moved on from him. When you have a guy like that, and you think about bringing him in, what is the research intel process like for you, as opposed to maybe just a guy that, you know, might just be a street free agent who's out there sometimes? And how did you arrive at that decision to bring him in?
Yeah, I mean, Sal, we, you know, all the way back to when we're doing our free agent meetings and our pro scouts are going through the guys who are, you know, haven't signed extensions. These are the guys. And so when you get to safety, you're talking about each guy. and then we kind of present to the coaches like, hey, take a look at this guy. I think he can do this and this. These are his strengths. These are his weaknesses. They watch, and then we kind of compare notes. And then when you get to free agency, you have discussions of, this guy's going to be out of your price range. This guy's not. This guy's going to add, an athletic skill set. This guy's going to, he's going to be more of a box safety. And so I think when you get to Chauncey, he was a guy that, some of the, he's had success. He's bounced around, but not because of the lack of talent. He's made big plays, impact plays. He can find the ball. He's a ball hawk. He will strike you, to say it politically correct, but he will knock your head off. And that's, he brings a great skill set to the position. Yes, you're asking around to people that have been on teams, and I would say a lot of things were very positive. He's super competitive, and sometimes his competitiveness, maybe he went a little far or whatever, but I thought, his off season, he came in here, and we talked about those things before we signed him to make sure we felt it. That's why it wasn't one of those you agree and sign before you brought him in. Like, we brought him in, we spent a whole day with him, and I thought he was open and honest about things that he thought he could have done better, and then maybe he thought things he didn't mean, things were interpreted differently, maybe in some situations than what he was trying to do. But I think he understands at this point of his career, like he's not at the end. He can still play, but he's got to make sure he keeps it within the lines. And so we talked about all those things. And if he can do that, you love that edge. I mean, when you walk into a guy like him, I've had guys on different teams, you walk into a hostile environment. I mean, week 1, we're going to be going to Houston. That's going to be a hostile environment, loud place. Like, you want an edge. You want to, hey, it's us against the world, that mentality. And he has that mentality. He has no fear. He's a guy that you want, in a street fight, so to speak. And so those are the things that are attractive. But, yes, like all players, he has to keep it with, we want him to be you with us, is one of Joe's slogans. Like, we want him to be himself, but just make sure it stays, within the boundaries.
Right. One of the issues for Josh Palmer last year was availability.
Yep.
How would you grade his health going into camp, and were there discussions about things the club could do to support him to be more available than he was last year?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, Josh, I thought he had a good start to the year. We go to Atlanta, and I think it was a hip drop tackle that got him, that they're trying to get out of the game. And so it got him in 3 areas. And unfortunately, we shut him down at the end of the year. I give him credit. He fought through it. It was tough. That's tough mentally on you, because I think with Josh, when you sign a contract, that was his first big deal coming off of his rookie contract. You want to live up to it. These guys, they're prideful guys. You go, man, I mean, just like when I took the GM job, I'm like, man, that's lofty expectations. I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want to let my teammates down, my staff down. And so Josh's first thing, he doesn't want to let his teammates. He wants to let them know, man, I came here. I want to be a part of this. And so this offseason, he was still working back from the ankle, was still giving him some problems. That's probably the thing that lingered the most through the season, that we ultimately shut him down for. But I think he's healthy. Talked to him yesterday. He's in a good spirit, and he's excited about his opportunities. And hopefully something like that doesn't happen. I think if it doesn't, and he can stay healthy, the ball will find him. And as the ball kind of bounces around. Sometimes it's going to the tight end. Sometimes it's going to the receivers. If he stays healthy, I think he'll be able to help us.
Obviously, Tyrell's on pup, but how's his recovery going?
Yeah, I think he's doing really well. This guy's been in the building all off season. You can set your watch to about 6 to 6:05. He's pouring a salt bath in one of those aluminum tubs. He's just one of those guys. He is steady, kind of how he even when he made the practice squad, there were a couple times he was frustrated he didn't make our roster, but didn't change his approach. It's frustrating to have an injury that's a 9 month to to a year, whatever they take sometimes, but you wouldn't see it on his face. He's just like, I'm going to work, I'm going to work, I'm going to work, I'm going to control what I can control. And so his teammates see his work ethic, and they're going to be excited when he gets back. But I think he's done a really good job. I wouldn't want to put a timetable on it yet. I wouldn't project him to be able to start the season. I think it'll be one of those things. He'll start the season on PUP, and then we'll just keep ramping him up. And when he's ready to go, we'll see if we can get him out there. Everybody good? Thank you. Nice shoes, Sal. I do.
Yes, I've already